Welcome to this edition of Decoding Diplomacy. In this particular section, we are going to be interviewing today. I'm going to be interviewing a veteran diplomat, Dr. Ausaf Sayeed. He knows the Gulf region inside out. He served as ambassador of India to Saudi Arabia and Yemen. He was also secretary in consular, passport, visa, and overseas Indians. In this capacity, he played a pivotal role in transforming and elevating India's relations with GCC and West Asia and North African countries. Uh, Dr. Saeed, welcome to this edition of Decoding Diplomacy. As we are talking, the new wave of, U.S. Iran war has taken a dangerous turn. The supreme leader, Iranian supreme leader, has been eliminated, but the goal of regime change remains unachieved. You have a new interim regime in place. There is a new wave of strikes and counter strikes by United States and Israel on one hand and Iran on the other. Also, as you know, Iran has launched a wave of strikes across the Gulf region, plunging the whole region into turmoil and chaos. So, Dr. Saeed, my first question to you is this, that looking ahead, how do you see? I mean, we have a new interim regime which the Iranians have been able to put in place, and this whole business of regime change. What do you make out of it? Because it looks like when we're talking about the establishment, that is very much in the saddle. And where do we go from here?
Manish, I feel that the objective of the regime change, which the United States and Israel were conceiving before they chose to strike Iran, while the mediation talks were actually going on with the third round,
Mhm.
first shows the lack of faith in peace or insincerity of the two players in not believing that talks would lead to peace. Or second thing could be that to circumvent the possibility of peace actually being achieved in the peace talks, to strike, Iran. Maybe they would have got some intelligence or whatever, God knows. But I think the objective of regime change does not seem to be, achieving simply by, the eliminating the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. You know, the nature of the regime itself is like that. Even if the supreme leader is eliminated, immediately alternate arrangements are put in place, and you have yourself mentioned about the interim leadership which has fallen in the hands of the three-member council, where of course we have the reformists faced in the form of President Masoud Pezeshkian. However, the other two are supposed to be hardliners. So this is one. We don't know how long this interim, council will last. They may eventually have to select a successor. We don't know who will be, selected. Of course, there had been talks which have been going on about Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei, the 56-year-old son of the late supreme leader. But we really don't know. There could be different considerations. But the fact remains is that even if the top clergy is removed, we have seen that the IRGC would remain in place. They have in fact threatened to kind of launch attacks, as part of revenge, and you have seen in some parts of Iran, a red flag is being flown on the mosque, some of the mosques, which means that Iran is now in the revenge mode. So nothing seems to have been changed on the ground. So regime change is just, I think, has remained a distant dream for US.
Right. So, the regime change itself to me seems like a misnomer, especially in the case of Iran, because the establishment, the clerical establishment, is so deeply rooted, embedded there. And when you look at the composition of the interim regime, interim government, uh, mostly these are hardliners. And you don't have any pro-West or pro-US figure, as far as I know, who's brazenly pro-US or pro-West. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what has the American campaign achieved if the regime change was their goal? Uh, yeah.
I mean, there is also one view. One view is that the objective of both United States and Israel does not appear to be regime change in Iran alone. In fact, what they are looking at, establishing some kind of a uncontested hegemony for Israel, where nobody could contest it in terms of conventional warfare. So you weaken the enemy so much and you destroy the leadership, you neutralize the nuclear and missile infrastructure, and also create a fear so that you have a decisive advantage in the region. So willy-nilly making Israel the sole power in the region, and let the other countries get bogged down with Iran, because of course this time it is different from the last June's conflict, because last June, barring one attack on Qatar at the US base, Iran had not actually targeted any of the GCC countries. But this time we have seen that specifically the US bases are being targeted. As many as, I think, 27 bases have been targeted in 7 different countries. We have also seen now reports emerging of deaths coming from this. So this is a different ballgame altogether. So on the one hand, there is talk about peace from Trump in the form of board of peace. Then suddenly we feel that the peace at one place is being used as as a tool to kind of justify warfare in some other area. So this is a kind of a dichotomy in the policy which I can see.
Dr. Said, Ambassador Said, the thing is that, this has what the Iran crisis, US-Iran conflict has serious implications for India. We have
Mhm.
around 10 million Indians living in the region, and across that, in almost every country, a large number of Indians. How do you look at India's response? What is India's assessment of the crisis? How will the elimination of, for example, Khamenei would mean for India?
You see, you're right. As a country with 10 million population, diaspora population in the region, and we are a net energy importer from the region. So we are importing roughly about 52 to 50 to 52% of the oil, which is coming from the Strait of Hormuz alone, which is almost about 2.6 million barrels per day. So it could lead to disruption. Second, there could be spiraling of crude prices. Already there were reports that oil prices have crossed $80, and there are speculations that if the conflict continues, it will actually go beyond $100. Worst case scenario could be reaching $120. So all this would put immense pressure on our current account deficit and immense pressure on rupee. That is on the economic side. But then we were also looking at connectivity projects in the form of Chabahar. But again, you see, unfortunately, in the light of the US sanctions and other pressures, that the US will impose an additional 25% tariff. We actually retreated from that project. And in this budget, we have actually allocated zero for that. So that is also something very strange to me, that
Mhm.
we are coming under so much of pressure.
Mhm.
So considering all that, what we would expect India, to play a very proactive role in the region,
Mhm.
where they could perhaps, be in a position to talk to Israel, talk to Iran, talk to other stakeholders, because India is acceptable as a player in all these countries. But what we are seeing actually is a very insipid statement. And in fact, if you look at it, it is looking to me that is the statement was prepared in anticipation that something like this would happen. There is no element of surprise in that.
Mhm.
So I think we cannot remain a fringe player. This is
Mhm.
also the observation of different analysts in the region, that India has to play a proactive role. Otherwise, our whatever our strategic interest in the region, we may not be able to actually safeguard them.
Uh, Well, say you made a very interesting point that the statement by MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, was quite sedate and tame, and also significantly, the attacks took place barely 2 days after Prime Minister Narendra Modi left Jerusalem. I was in Jerusalem when the visit took place, and right now I am in Tel Aviv,
Mhm.
stranded here virtually. And I'm
Mhm.
talking to you from Tel Aviv, even as we hear air raid sirens going on and constantly rushing to the bunker and all that. But as analysts, our job is to make sense of the situation. Uh, you think that Netanyahu would have taken Prime Minister Modi into confidence? I mean, we don't know whether he was briefed or not about the war because many of us stayed back to explore the country a bit, and there were no clear instructions, there were no clear warnings from the Indian authorities. What do you make out of that?
You see, it's very difficult to say because one, of course, on the one hand, both countries, elevated their partnership to strategic, special strategic partnership,
Mhm.
which, in the layman's term, is equivalent to what Israel has with the United States, or somewhere moving towards that. So when you have that kind of a strategic partnership in which intelligence sharing is a very deep, a bilateral commitment of both countries. So I wonder, despite all that, whether this topic of a possible strike on Iran was discussed or not. I cannot make a guess on these things. But also on the other hand, it could also be a possibility that the United States and Israel had kept it very closely guarded secret to have that kind of a surprise element. Otherwise, such kind of an operation will
Mhm.
be very difficult to execute.
Mhm.
So in either case, I feel that since our proximity to Israel has increased and we have become extremely close strategic partners, this is the time when India should impress upon Israel to see the wider objectives and not get bogged down into a continuous loop of the war. If you recollect, when Israel attacked Qatar, put a bomb, that was actually a red line. That was also the time when India could have actually sensitized Israel how its actions actually affect us more than anyone else. So I think still time is not lost. We can make up the ground. And I have seen that our External Affairs Minister has a series of talks to various his counterparts in different countries. But that is perhaps more for diaspora safety and other things than actually either mediating or taking steps to end this conflict,
Right.
So, yeah.
Also, I mean, in trying to forge a special strategic partnership with Israel and Prime Minister Modi's visit, where he actually said, told Israeli parliament, and I was there, that I am Israel Khai, the people of Israel live. Now
Yeah.
that's a very symbolic statement, and Benjamin Netanyahu went out of the way to welcome him, and all that we saw, special gestures, car
Yeah.
ride,
Yeah.
private dinner, and all that. Do you think our relations now with Iran have been kind of damaged irreversibly, or do you see that India can still reach out to Iran and play a constructive role in bridging, in building bringing the two warring countries together?
I thought our external affairs ministers also did call the Iranian foreign minister after the thing. So there is a communication which is there.
Hmm.
And of course, the countries in the region had been accustomed to India dealing independently with Iran, with Israel, and also with Palestine and the Arab world. But talking about this particular visit of a prime minister,
Hmm.
maybe the timing, was not very appropriate, or our side may not have been aware that what is going to come immediately after this visit.
Hmm.
Because if we see the Arab galleries, what they are reading, they are actually not appreciating India's growing proximity to Israel, especially at a time
Hmm.
when the world is shunning Israel.
Mhm.
for its atrocities, for killing more than 70,000 people, innocent people in Gaza, of which 20,000 people are children. And this seemingly, unnecessary war on Iran. Again, so all this timing, I think, if you see, there are bad reviews, throughout the Arab, world, and more so in the Arab street. So this is where we should be concerned about. But of course, our policy, West Asia policy itself, is hinged on three separate relationships. Which is, one is our relationship, independent relationship with Israel, which has been growing. Our relationship with Arab countries, which is also actually growing, simultaneously, and our relationship with Iran. Now, the only thing is that we have managed these relationships very well, in the past decades. But now the world is changing very fast, and any such symbolism where we are seen to be aligning as strategic partners at a time of crisis in this region may be misconstrued in different capitals in the West Asia.
Right. So yeah, India has been so far deftly playing the game of multi-alignment and strategic autonomy, juggling different relationship with rivals, that is, who are mutual rivals, and all that. But when we look forward, when we look ahead, as you said that, India's closer proximity to Israel has not played down well with Arab countries with whom our relations have been growing. And as you know, Iranian missiles, Iranian attacks have also targeted many Arab countries, many Gulf countries, and they have not just targeted U.S. facilities in the region, military facilities, but also civilians, also Fairmont Hotel, the iconic Fairmont Hotel in Dubai is gone in flames, and so many other things. Quite a few civilians have been killed. How do you look at this? What is Iran's grand strategy? Why it has been doing this?
See, one thing is that the primary target, one must agree, is not the civilian, targets, as far as the Iranians are concerned, and they've said so. Now, mostly these have been the U.S. bases in different countries, or where they have felt that particular facility is being used, or could likely be used either by Israel or U.S. For instance, the attack on the Qum port in Oman. Oman has been a traditional mediator and have been mediating the between US and Iran, but still there was an attack. Now the justification which the Iranians has given is that that port could be misused by the Americans. So this was one. Now definitely some civilians have civilian casualties have occurred in Dubai in particular, at the Fairmount Hotel. Now, one view which is coming is that the hotel was frequented by Israeli, officials and Israeli experts. So perhaps that may have prompted thing, or other thing could have been a misdirected, missile could have, or drone could have fallen there. In either case, I think civilian casualties are condemnable, whether done by Iranians or by Americans. If you recollect, the first day, the major strike was on a girls' school in Tehran, which killed nearly 85 people. So I think the civilians have been bearing the brunt of much of the conflict, both in Gaza and elsewhere in the region. So I think the country should go by the book and consciously, take care not to target the civilians. So personally speaking, I strongly condemn any civilian casualties in any part of the world.
Uh, Another angle is that Iran is Shia's is a preeminent power, the Shia world, so to speak. And talking about the influence of Shias, for example, in India, I believe in some parts of Kashmir, there have been protests and all that. Uh, and we have a large population, fairly large population of Shias in our own country, in India. How would it impact? I mean, uh, in this context, there is politics happening back home. That is, Congress party is already accused Modi government, Prime Minister Modi, of going to Israel and not and being insensitive to the Palestinian cause and all that. What will be the political cost for the government of this kind of hedging that is happening?
You see, always the Indian foreign policy was known for its empathy for causes across the world, particularly in the global south. And the Palestinian cause is one of the oldest causes which India had been supporting. Of course, now with growing proximity of India to Israel, some sections are feeling that our support to Palestine is somewhat, waned or somewhat declined. Of course, I know for sure that India is supporting Palestine in terms of developmental assistance, construction of various facilities. I had myself visited Palestine as secretary and reviewed the thing, reviewed several projects. That apart, the protests by many people, many Muslims in India, particularly in Kashmir. Some protests have also taken place in Uttar Pradesh and also in Karnataka and a few other places. I think this is an emotional response, because the Shia community, wherever Shia community is, in good numbers in India, they look upon Iran as also the spiritual capital, as the Sunnis look to Saudi as their spiritual, guiding force. So I think it is but natural for them to come out in grief. I would rather say it is a more emotional response than any political, pressure on the government of India or elsewhere. But having said that, since we do have a 200 million population of Muslims in India, I think we should also be mindful whether we are willy-nilly, hurting the sentiments of our own countrymen, as well as, those in the region.
As secretary in the ministry, you dealt with, you're in charge of overseas Indians, the welfare of overseas Indians. And right now, apart from people who live in these countries, there are many people who are visiting these countries, and they are stranded, and situation is becoming grim because there is expectation that Iran will continue to hit back. There'll be massive retaliation by Iran. And in this context, I know, for example, in Dubai, some of my friends, people I know, are stranded there at the airport. I myself am here. There are my other friends here who are also stranded in Israel, in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Do you think, given the scale of the crisis, do you think it's time for special evacuation flights or plans? How do you look at that?
You see, we'll have to just see how things pan out in the next 48 hours. In fact,
Okay.
most countries are doing that, because if in the next 48 hours you feel that if it is seen that these strikes are kind of somewhat reduced or stopped completely, then I think slowly the normalcy will resume. Now, of course, despite that, there have been advisories given by the Indian embassies all over the region, and in fact, some embassies have also spoken to the airline representatives in trying to see wherever the airspace is open and the flights are available, then the special attention is being given to those who have been stranded
Mhm.
rather than those who are living there and wants to come here. So this is there. And I think the next couple of days will really be the guiding factor. If it prolongs, then that means that invariably India will have to look for other means of evacuating its nationals. We have done so in the past and from many places, Yemen, Sudan, and so on and so forth. So I don't think we lack logistic capabilities or political will to do so. But then perhaps at this juncture, it is too early to talk about that.
With Iran's supreme leader killed, assassinated, whichever way you put it, uh, you think the regime has enough firepower now to continue these strikes? You're talking about the next 48 hours. Uh, what is your realistic assessment? Do you see sort of this particular dangerous phase of the conflict ending in the next 2, 3 days?
You see, we just discussed also that on the day two, Iran actually, after the supreme leader's death, has actually fired missiles to several Arab countries, besides, of course, targets in Israel. And we have also seen the report of casualties coming both from Israel as well as US soldiers. And I think perhaps the gamble of Iran is, but through these kinds of strikes, is to kind of force the Gulf countries to kind of mediate with the US to come up with some kind of a ceasefire or stopping this. So the idea is that if they feel threatened, maybe the more since the attack is coming right to their doorsteps, maybe they would feel it obligatory to kind of intervene. So this is intervene in a positive sense of bringing about some kind of, or restoring the peace talks which were going on. And if you see the statement of the Omani foreign minister, it is with deep disappointment he said that it was very unfortunate that US took this route while significant progress was actually made in those talks. So I'm hopeful that maybe in the next 2 days, it's quite possible that some kind of an arrangement facilitated by some of the countries where the two sides agree to come on the negotiating table.
Thank you so much for sharing insights. I hope you are true that we live on hope, and this very grim and dangerous situation comes to an end. At the end of the day, it is not about geopolitical power games, but it's about people. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank,
Masjid Saeed, for joining in this conversation and sharing your
thank you
insights.
so much.